Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. In this previous video, we explored how animation works in Silhouette and how we can animate shapes frame by frame. But in real production, manually animating every frame is not practical. That's where tracking becomes extremely useful. So in this video, we are going to look at how tracking works in Silhouette and we will understand the difference between point tracking, planar tracking, mocha tracking. Before jumping into the tools, let's first understand what tracking actually means. Tracking is the process of analyzing motion inside a shot and extracting the movement data. Instead of animating a shape manually for every frame, we can track the movement of an object and apply the motion to our rotor shapes and paint fixes. For example, if an actor hand is moving across the frame, we can track the motion. This saves a huge amount of time and keeps the motion very accurate. Tracking is used in many areas of VFX, including rotoscoping, paint fixes, screen replacement, compositing. So as usual, I'm going to start with this, creating this new layer in this object list. Usually how we use this animation, like if I'm going to use it for this rotor in this pillar, I'm just going to draw the shapes. And after that, this animation is moved and I'm going to be placed like this. Right? So this is how we usually do without tracking. But now we are going to put the rotor shapes with the help of tracking. For that, we have an options called tracking on your left side. Just click the tracker and you can be able to see point tracker, planar tracker, mocha tracker and flow. So first we are going to see this point tracker. If I'm going to be rotor for this pillar, first I have to place the marker inside. I'm just using this, hold on the Alt and I'm just place the tracker here. So you can see these two boxes, right? This upper box is called reference frame. That we have to tell this marker. So this is a reference frame where you're going to be track on this full frame. That inside marker is the tracking marker. Okay. So this is the shape and this is the reference. And here you can able to do this on track forward and track backward. At the same time, one frames also you can able to do it. So now I'm going to use this track forward. What happens? Actually, it is interacting. When the character is interacting this tracking, the tracking is automatically jump. So there's a lot of disturbing. And one more thing, here also you can able to see the inside the grinds. In the footage have a grind, right? So inside the grind, this footage grind is also disturbing the tracking. So what we can do now? So for reducing this grind, we are just going to click the nodes and you can able to do this denoise here. Just go to this denoise and you can just connect the footage here. Can you able to see this? Now this is the original footage. Now we are using the denoise symbol. Now we can just use the roto. If you're taking the render, then it will be really good, okay? Because while using this denoise symbol, it will be affect our workflow. Now we can going to use the tracking. So I'm just deleting the track and again I'm placing the tracking layer here. Reference, this is the reference frame, okay? Now I'm going to be tracking frame by frame instead of this play forward, okay? Now the cat is going to be disturbing. So now I'm going to change the reference pattern. So this pillar is like both are same, right? So I'm just going to change the reference pattern to here. Now I'm just going to continue the same tracking. The tracking marker is on the same area, but I'm going to change the references only because what I think, this both pillar on the same movement, right? So if I'm going to change the reference, there is no more big issues. The tracking part is the same. If again it is disturbing, then we'll just going to change the reference area to where. I'm just going to change the reference area to here. So this is how we are going to be use the tracking. So after tracking, what we can do for this kindly area. So once the tracking is done, we are just going to be click that apply. If I'm just using this apply, can you see this? There is one layer is created with the help of position x-axis, y-axis, and the scaling is off because we are taking only the one track. If you use for the scaling, we need two kind of tracks. Okay, so first we just take the transition. I'm just taking okay. So in here, the layer 2, you can see the timeline. For layer 1, we don't have any transform matrix, like we don't have any data about this tracking, but in this layer 2 you can see this some tracking data is there. So if I'm going to be draw any shapes on this layer 2, you can see it's perfectly moving. The same shape I'm going to be place it on layer 1. I'm just changing the color to the green. So green indicates without tracking and this red indicate with tracking. Okay, so this is the power of tracking. When we use the tracking, we can see by using the stabilize. I'm just selecting the layer 2 and I'm just clicking the stabilization, and you can just click this enable on the active layer. So active layer in the sense, if I'm just tick mark on the layer, that is called this active layer, and you can change the separate layer the name that you want. Okay, so now we don't see this camera movement. We can just arrest the camera movement by the help of tracking, the single type of tracking. Okay, so how point track works. The tracker analyzes the pixels pattern and follows a point throughout the shot. In Silhouette, when we use the point tracker, the software calculates this movement in X and Y positions. This means it tracks how points moves from left, right, up or down across frames. Point tracking is very useful when the feature is clearly visible, the motion is simple, the object is not rotating too much. However, point tracking can fail if the features become blurred or hidden. Okay, now let's move to the planar tracking. And I'm again just going to this tracking mode, and you can see this planar tracking. Until point tracking, planar tracking does not track a single pixel. Instead, it tracks the entire surface of the plane. For example, the wall, a phone screen, a table, a signboard. Like a tracker analyzes the texture of the whole surface and calculate how plane moves in the shot. For this shot, we are not going to use the planar tracking. We are going to use for the mocha tracking. Because for planar tracking, we have a separate shots. I'll teach you later. Now, let's talk about mocha tracking. Mocha is a dedicated tracking tool developed by Boris FX and is integrated into Silhouette. For example, it is better tracking for difficult shots. So for that, I'm just going to create the layer and I'm just selecting the shapes here. And I'm going to the tracking area and just selecting this mocha. Here you can see these 5 options: translation, scale, rotation, shear, perspective. So it depends upon the moment. If you need only the transition, then you can just unselect for all these options. If there's some transitions, you can just track only the single movement. As using the same concept. Okay, it will track only the single options. Like if I'm just play the track, can you see this? So it will not just calculate the scaling. Again, if I'm just select the scale, rotation, if I'm just go to the track here, so whatever the scale it happens on the shot, then it automatically calculate the scale rotations. If your shot have shear perspective, then you can choose the shear and perspective options here. Okay, and you can see this generally the pre-processing. So before taking the track, you can use the pre-processing method. How pre-processing method works? You can just go to the preview, and if you don't have the clear objects, if you don't have the clear pixels, then you can adjust by using this sharpens, contract or gamma and gain for use the better track. Okay, so the tracking data is going to be applied on the layer, not on the shape. So if I'm going to be delete the shapes also, don't issues. Again, if I'm just going to be draw the shape like here, then if I'm going to move the shape, then this tracking data will help here. But understand one thing, if I'm going to be take the track on this pillar, then I can able to be work only on the track area on this pillar, but I cannot able to be work on this because tracking perspective is just totally different. This next video, we'll be see the full character roto by using this tracking concepts. See you in the next video, guys. Bye-bye.